Yeah, good morning, everybody. This is Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln. I'm the warning coordination meteorologist here. I'm showing 10 o'clock. Few people are still rolling in, but I think I'll get rolling with the presentation for this morning. Do have a elevated risk of severe weather today, and it looks like this evening is going to be the focus. Not a lot of changes with the morning update from the Storm Prediction Center. You can see in my what has changed section there, the enhanced risk area really did not change at all. The slight risk narrowed slightly, but for our county warning area, it really didn't change all that much. There was a little bit of a shift eastward in the 5% tornado area that I'll show you in a couple of slides here, just a little bit east of Peoria and out of Havana. We do see that SPC will be updating earlier this afternoon again. So next scheduled update of any slide changes would be this afternoon. We should be able to send a slide set out again before 3:30. We do have a questions section that you can enter into any questions you may have throughout the talk, and I'll probably just verbally go through those at the end. We don't have someone manually typing answers for that right now at this point. So, all right. Let me get into some of the details here. There's the updated severe weather outlook for day one. The slight risk did narrow just slightly, but really no big changes for Central Illinois in terms of what the impacts that we are expecting. We're still looking for a line of storms to develop mid to late afternoon across northern Illinois and then advance southward across central Illinois. The timing is roughly pretty close to what we had previously, and I'm going to step through some timing slides after we get through our slide set here, but very large hail is still targeted out of this system. The instability in the atmosphere and is conducive for some large hail. So let's step into the tornado threat. While it isn't as high as we've seen on a previous event, 5% TOR is definitely something to be concerned about. And when they throw the hatching on there, that's for an intensity guide there. And the hatching category 1 is for EF2 upper bound. Generally, that's what Storm Prediction Center is thinking. I know it says EF2 plus, but really when they only stay at level 1, they're really expecting EF2 intensity to be the upper bound for tornadoes. What that means is you're going to see, potentially roofs removed from homes, maybe some wall damage if a tornado is impacting. EF3 would be where you'd have more walls taken down. EF2 is generally mostly roof damage, maybe garages getting damaged, lots of trees potentially getting damaged with EF2 level tornadoes. So obviously impacts could be, depending on where you are in your home, the impacts could be higher than that, but we want to make sure everybody stays in lowest level and gets out of harm's way as these tornadoes move through, because anytime they throw hatching in there, structural damage potential goes up. I did massage a little bit on the timing, just on some updated models that we had this morning. We had the threat mainly 5 to 8 p.m. before, and I bumped that to 10 just because of what I'm seeing out of one of our more recent updates from the RRFS model, which is going to be replacing the HRRR eventually here. So, the supercell period of time is what we're really focusing that tornado threat. And I'm just seeing some indications potentially of that supercell period of time, maybe extending a little bit later into the evening. So that's going to be our main tornado threat period of time there. Here's our hail outlook, and that hatching there is for greater than 2-inch hail, not as high as 3.5. The 3.5 would be category 2. So, but still anything 2 to 3 inch size hail can cause quite a bit of damage there. Larger than golf ball. Golf ball is 1.75 inches. So that risk generally has not changed much at all there. That 30% chance of any hail, severe size, and then it's in the red, and the yellow is 15 to 29% potential for severe level hail, 1 inch or greater there. So, and the intensity marker is only category 1. But be some very large hail is not out of the question, although they didn't go category 2 with that 3.5 inch or greater potential. So the winds are going to be mainly tied to when the storms turn a little bit more linear, but some downburst winds out of those supercells are definitely a concern. That you have the highest threat there, the 30 to 44% in the red. That did not change when I updated the map all that much, and neither did the 15 to 29% area in the hatched area as well. So really very few changes here. Supercells can produce those damaging downburst winds. When the line turns, when the supercells kind of congeal into a line later on this evening, that threat for damaging winds really only extends roughly to about I-70. The storms are going to weaken after midnight in terms of their ability to produce damaging downburst winds. So not a lot of change there. Threat mainly north of I-70. A timing graphic here, I did change a little bit of the area 1. That was only till 6 p.m. before. I bumped that to 4 to 7 p.m. just on the latest updates from the high resolution models. And area 2, I extended that all the way to 10 p.m. To cover what we're seeing in the RRFS. And then below I-70, that area 3, most of the severe threat probably would be before 10 p.m., but some of the models didn't have anything down there until after 10 p.m. So that would kind of tell me that that southern area really isn't going to have as intensive storms as they move through, but wind damage and maybe some hail threat would be there, but not as large of hail or as strong of the winds there. We do have these timing graphics, and they are updated with the latest from Storm Prediction Center's most recent update, and it narrowed enhanced a little bit, and it brought it ended it a little sooner in some of these graphics, including Peoria here. It had extended a little bit closer to 8. Now it's ending more towards 7 in terms of the threat on the northwest side of our county warning area, Galesburg and Peoria. As we shift a little south, there are no enhanced areas here, and they didn't have that before. So Springfield and Van are not in the enhanced risk, but you still have a tornado threat in there for both of those. And the timing here was as late as 10 o'clock, and that's probably pretty good based on the latest model that I'm going to show you here in a little bit. So that threat will primarily be evening. It shows as early as 5, 6, 7 here for these sites, but I'm really not seeing a whole lot of threat in the Havana Springfield area until after 7 p.m. there. As we shift a little east, Bloomington, Decatur, the enhanced risk a little bit more extensive for Bloomington in terms of time. That threat probably is going to be more towards the 7 o'clock to 7 to 9 time frame there. Decatur as well in that 8 o'clock time frame for the most intense severe weather threat there for Decatur. Now, if we go further east, Champaign, Danville, they have the larger areas for the enhanced risk, and then that slight extends all the way towards almost midnight. And primarily in that enhanced risk area, I think timing is going to be our tornado threat for those two areas. And Champaign and Danville being a little bit further northeast, I think some of those earlier storms will have a chance to maybe impact Danville, and that's why the enhanced risk goes all the way over to the 5 o'clock time frame there. So some of those storms in northeast Illinois might start clipping Danville a little bit sooner than the rest of the area. And then as we go a little further south, southeast area, Effingham, and then Charleston, Mattoon, no enhanced risk there, but certainly a tornado threat is present in the Charleston area, maybe not so much the Effingham area. Effingham mainly be hail and damaging winds. So I'll show you here a little summary. Severe weather likely to develop late afternoon. When is the watch going to come out is always a prominent question, and it's tough to say, but I would suspect based on what I'm seeing in the models that sometime between 4 and 5 o'clock that watch probably would be coming out. Whether it be a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch is up to the Storm Prediction Center, but seeing that they have a hatched tornado threat, I think that might tip the balance toward a tornado watch sometime there between late afternoon time frame, by 4 or 5 o'clock at the latest. All right, I do want to get out of these slides. These slides will be emailed, and they're actually already loaded into the handouts portion of the webinar. So if you want to actually just download those now, you can go grab this slide set that I just showed right here, right from that handout section of the webinar software. And we can also push those out as well. But I do want to just escape out of that and go into the RRFS model here, and just show you starting at 1 o'clock here, 2 o'clock, 3, 4. There's the updraft intensity really cranking up. So 4 o'clock at some point and that's pretty consistent between several of the models. And if we look over to the HRRR, that's the 4 o'clock time, or no, that's 5 o'clock, between 4 and 5. So roughly similar initiation times, but intensity goes up very quickly once it breaks that cap. There is a cap in the atmosphere that's going to kind of keep things in check until about that 4 or 5 o'clock time frame. And here's 5 o'clock in the RRFS, 6 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock. That's a little wrinkle there showing a really intense storm coming out of Schuyler towards Sangamon. At 8 o'clock, 9, 10. That's kind of, a new change in the most recent version of this RRFS. So we'll see if that maintains its timing there, but just caused me a little bit of a pause there. It's further south that the supercells really weren't expected to last that late initially and be that far west and that south. So we'll keep an eye on that. One thing I do like to show, since we're talking about tornadoes, is something called the updraft helicity, and that's the rotational potential of a storm that it's being indicated by the model, and just show you where those storm tracks are that are of the more intense storms. So here is once again 5 o'clock, 4, 5, 6. So the initial storms are farther north in Illinois, maybe a few of them clipping north of Champaign to Danville. That's why the Danville threat zone is enhanced all the way up to that 5 o'clock time frame. And here's 6 o'clock right now, 7. Some of the storms shift east out of the area, but then there's that development back west, showing pretty significant. This is the 9 o'clock time frame, 10 o'clock. So some really strong updrafts. So this is obviously not the end all be all of what's going to happen, but certainly the ability of these storms to produce strong rotation is there. That's where it's possibly going to support those EF2 level tornadoes. If we bump over to the HRRR's version of the updraft helicity swaths, this is 6 o'clock right here. Nothing really significant north, whereas the RRFS did have some more stronger rotational signatures. Then as we head into the 7 o'clock time frame, 8, 9, 10, it doesn't have that swath going through Schuyler to Sangamon. So, we kind of law of averages there. What is the capability of the atmosphere that the model is showing? Not necessarily just zoning in on where are these swaths showing up. What's the potential of the atmosphere? And it's showing, that some of those storms could rotate pretty strongly quickly after development. So, and this is 8, 9, 10. So just got to be aware of that. There's going to be a corridor of where those supercells develop. And when we see there's, updraft developing on radar, we know what they're capable of producing, so we can maybe get ahead of the game on some warnings for some of the more intense storms that develop. Similarly here with large hail, usually the largest hail will be associated with the storms that have some of the more intense rotations that do develop. So, all right, that's my take on things for this particular update. Let me see if I've got some questions in here. Yeah, the NAM 3K has been undercutting the storms. Let's see, thoughts on 12Z NAM 3K completely undercutting the storms, keeping the tornado threat super low. Kevin Lighty, even the 13Z HRRR races that front south. So, there's potential that this could be a mainly northern Illinois and then shifting east into Indiana based on the NAM 3K. It's probably the lower bound of the scenarios. It seems pretty unlikely that we're not going to get a few supercells, because the NAM 3K really doesn't bring hardly anything into Central Illinois. It seems like a little bit of an outlier in terms of, really keeping us out of the game. But, with the cap in place, caps have had some days the caps don't break. Even on a moderate risk day, we've had a cap not break, but it seems like this cold front is strong enough. There's enough dynamics with this particular trigger, so we need a trigger. If there's a cap and no trigger, then those days can have bust potential. But when we've got a cold front coming through, I really don't think that that NAM 3K solution is more of an outlier, as I mentioned. So I would suspect that we're going to get some supercell thunderstorms in central Illinois with this cold front coming in. Shelby County is under a slight risk. Would you expect the time frame of the greatest concern to be 7 to 9 p.m.? Scott, yeah, that's still well, Shelby is probably on the southern end of that, so you can have your threat extend till as late as 10 based on the RRFS, but 7 to 9 is a solid window, maybe until 10. With storms coming through around 5, you think they maybe issue a watch earlier? Kent, yeah, Kent. If Storm Prediction Center wants to get a large watch out and they want to capture Chicago and us right away, yeah, that 3 o'clock time frame is in play. Because if they want to watch out before that 4 o'clock initiation up north and want to include us in the watch and to make a big watch, yeah, that watch could be blasted out here by 3 o'clock, certainly, Kent. Let's see. In your opinion, would a watch be issued closer to I-80 or I-74? Oh, John Lundy. Yeah, the watch is going to include all of northern Illinois more than likely, based on the threat zone and where they have the enhanced risk in place. That initiation zone looks to be I-80 area, and I would suspect that there's going to be a relatively large portion of central Illinois included, including northern Illinois, in that watch. Once that does get produced, we're going to have, obviously they do a conference call when we finally get alerted that Storm Prediction Center is ready to move forward. So we'll see what they want to suggest including, but we'll have a discussion with them on that too. All right, what are the humidity levels? Right now they're not too bad. The dew points are climbing. Yeah, I see already. Macomb's up to 61, Galesburg 65. So they've rebounded quickly. When we had our morning briefing, they were in the lower 50s, and they're already up to the near mid 60s out west. So the humidity levels are going to be plenty sufficient for fueling these storms. When the dew points get in the mid 60s in late March, that's always something to raise concern, and we should more than likely have dew points in that range before that cold front finally comes in, because we're dealing with record high temperatures in the mid to upper 80s today. So that alone is enough to really provide enough fuel for pretty intense storms today. When do you think the greatest threat will be for Kent, McCandless, and Woodford? Let me go back to the Bloomington one here. There it is. So yeah, you're in the 6 to 8, 6 to 9 is still a good window. 6 to 8 probably for you, Kent, just based on if they start developing further north and then finally get down towards Woodford. So yeah, Bloomington starting as early as 5:30 and the enhanced slight as early as 4:30. So, but just seeing the models and the trends, that line is going to fill in from the northeast Illinois will be starting everything, and then it'll kind of expand across, and updrafts are going to kind of bubble up. So 5 o'clock would be the early end, I think, on your severe weather storms there, Kent. Edgar County would be closer to my Danville. Danville starts early. You're probably same thing, 6 to 8. Edgar, northern Edgar, southern Edgar. It's a big county, maybe towards the 9 o'clock time frame. But Paris is kind of in the middle there. But I would suspect that supercell storms potential there in the 7 to 9 time frame for you in Edgar County. What time are the temps expected to plunge? That's going to occur this evening primarily. The really rapid drop. Trying to see the timing of the. I could actually load up a quick hourly plot. So where are you, Justin? So if we look at the hourly plots, which I really do rely on, this is our database. So I zoom in a little bit. When does the wind shift? Looks like the wind shifts out of the north in Macon County right around 7 p.m. And then 8 p.m. the winds are due north and they start cranking 20 gusts to 40, near 40 miles an hour there. So the temperature drops starting at 6 p.m. when that front hits, and drops about 35 degrees in about 4 or 5 hours. And by morning, so it's dropping almost 50 degrees here between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Significant trends there. And this is kind of probably the trend for most of Central Illinois. Once that front hits, within about 4 or 5 hours, you're going to drop 30 to 40 degrees. Can you throw the Champaign one back up? I certainly can. Yeah, there's Champaign timing. So as early as 5:30 with the enhanced risk where the supercell threat is, and then as late as about 8:30 or so for Champaign. Sure, it tracks with Bloomington graph for this. I've got Peoria in here, I believe. Yeah, there's Peoria. Peoria's a little bit earlier. They did, when I saw this update, when I was doing the updates, Peoria's enhanced was all the way past 8 o'clock, and they shrunk it back towards 7, closer to 7 there, 7:30. So they shrunk the enhanced timing a little bit, and obviously the slight risk is still severe weather mode, but that's what we're looking at for Peoria in the northwest part of our county warning area. It looks like I've covered all the questions that have been entered, but we'll see what they send out for updates with the early afternoon, and then we'll ship out another set of slides here. I'll send these out, and then we'll have another update this afternoon with any changes that the storm predictioner might see, and see how it goes. But if you have any further concerns, you can always reach out to the office. Don't hesitate. That's what we're here for. So, but I can stay on and just be ready for any other questions for a few more minutes here. Otherwise, thanks for attending. I appreciate everybody taking the time. Take care, everybody.